Are presented by the Fanboys. Hey guys, welcome back. It's Brad with College SportsCast. I have a special guest with me today. We have SteveHiegel with us today. Hey Steve, how are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Doing good. He is back with us. He was actually with us last month, and he's back with us again. And my other two guys that are normally with me, Jason and John, are running a little behind. So I'm hoping they'll be here in just a few minutes and join us. I know I just got a message from Jason. He should be coming on here pretty quickly, and we'll see what happens with John. But anyways, so Steve here runs justcollegefootball.net and justcollegebasketball.net. And if you've watched the show before, he was on before, and I've told you guys that he's also a John Wooden Award winner. I wish. You wish, right? A John Wooden Award voter. I'll get that right in just a second. John, Steve, you wish that it was for you, right? On the winner.
Very true. Just a voter, not a winner.
Yeah, a voter. Yeah, let me make that straight. That's a voter, not a winner. And then what else are you involved with, Steve?
I have two websites, the justcollegefootball.net and justcollegebasketball.net. And one of the things I try to do with college basketball has been going to a lot of games this year, just check out like arenas and kind of get, my vibe of what a certain arena is. I've been to 25 so far this year. So I went to a couple games yesterday. Yeah, I went to.
You went to a couple games yesterday?
Yeah, I saw Monmouth play Elon in the CAA. Elon defeated Monmouth, and then in the evening, I went down to Princeton and saw them play a good Ivy League game between them and Yale. And Princeton, man, they had that game all wrapped up with 5 minutes left, and they just they thought it was 1981, and they put the stall tactic in, but they didn't realize there was a shot clock, and they had to shoot every 30 seconds. And then Yale made a historic comeback. I think it was historic, seemed historic, and won the game in overtime. So but I saw two great arenas, two good games, and I'm going to go probably see a game next weekend. I haven't decided which game. A couple more games to finish out the season. And then once about the second week of March comes, I'll just be here at home watching all the games like everybody else.
All right. Well, that's pretty cool. 25 different arenas this year, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So who else in that 25? I know you said yesterday, but who else have you seen?
A lot of mid-major teams. Seen a couple of Big Ten teams. I saw Maryland play and Rutgers play. Great atmosphere in Villanova at the Pavilion, their home arena. They also play some games in the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia where the 76ers play, but I saw them play in Finneran Pavilion, their home arena. Most of the arenas I visit are I live in just outside of Baltimore, Maryland, just in the Maryland, D.C., Virginia, Pennsylvania, a few in Jersey. I haven't ventured like into New York or up the coast or even down the coast yet. I'm trying to think who else I've seen. George Mason, a lot of A-10 teams. I saw St. Joseph's and LaSalle, both up in Philadelphia. And then, of course, some smaller teams. I've seen a handful of MEAC teams, too.
What's one of your favorites that you've seen so far this year out of the 25?
I think the best one I've seen was Maryland.
Maryland?
Early said best atmosphere I've seen this year is Maryland early this year. Rutgers was right there as well. I saw them in early January. That was a great atmosphere, along with Villanova. Back in about mid-January, Villanova played Georgetown's old school Big East matchup, and that was a great atmosphere.
Oh, yeah, Villanova and Georgetown would be fun to see. Yeah, that would be a fun game. That's Big East. You can't, be maybe UConn or whatever, but, that's some big-time rivalries in the Big East.
Yeah, all Big East games.
Jason's joining us this time, and this is Jason Harrison. Steve, just so I don't know if he was on with us the last time.
Yes.
Was he on last time when you were here? I couldn't remember.
How you doing? How everybody doing?
So he's a month or so ago, I guess it was before Christmas, he was only on 1 or 2 times a week. So I couldn't remember if he was on when you were with us or not last
Yes.
time. All right, that's cool. I just wanted to make sure. So now that Jason's with us, maybe John Roberts will get with us here in a few minutes. He said he was running behind as well. So I had 2 guys both running behind today. So we waited for a few minutes, Jason, and then we went ahead and come on. So.
Oh man, I know you. Hey, the show must go on. The show must go on. I do know that. I do know that.
Yeah. This is true. All right. So what we're going to do today is I've got the conference rankings from the NET, the net rankings, and of course the top conference in the country is the Big 12. So we're going to start out with the Big 12, and I just want to ask you, Steve. I mean, what what are some of the teams in the conference? How many do you think will get in out of the Big 12? I've seen anywhere from 7 to 10. When Oklahoma beat Alabama a few weeks ago, I don't think all 10 is going to get in. I think Texas Tech's on a little run right now. They possibly could sneak in and take somebody's bid. I really feel like it may be 18 bid or 18 conference. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're looking at like I'd venture to say 7, and then the 8th team might come from a team that comes on in the next couple of weeks, or if they make a run and win the Big 12 tournament, one of the 3 remaining teams like West Virginia or Texas Tech would be 2 of the first names I can mention. I think TCU is in, Kansas is in, Kansas State's in, Baylor's in. I mean, we keep going here.
Iowa State's in.
Iowa State's in, yeah.
Iowa State's in. Yeah,
Iowa State's in. Oklahoma's the one that's kind of, even with that win against Alabama, they've kind of fallen off the last couple of weeks, and they lost. Like I said, they lost. We talked previous to the show beginning about Texas beating them yesterday in a game they could have won. That would have been a big win for Oklahoma because they're on the bubble. That would have been a great win for them. But Oklahoma State, I think they're right on the outside looking in as well.
Yeah, you're right about that. That.
Yeah,
that's a deep conference. That's just a tough conference from top to bottom.
It is.
And then, right now, before today, I was looking at it this morning, and a lot of people have West Virginia kind of in that last 4 out. Right.
I think the loss yesterday to Texas Tech put them out. I still think they can get their way back in the next couple of weeks if they can finish out strong. I'm not looking at their schedule right off the top of my head. I know they do have to play Kansas State in a couple of weeks at home, so that could be a marquee win for them. And of course, you got the Big 12 tournament where, that Big 12 tournament is going to be crazy because if you're a bubble team, all you probably got to do is win. You might always have to win 2 games in that tournament and just get to the final game. And then, or maybe 2 or 3 if you fall in the last couple 4 because the last 2 teams like 9 and 10. But if 2 or 3 wins in that tournament could get you in because they're all going to be against marquee. All your games are going to be against marquee teams that are in the top 25. So
yeah, so number 7 in the conference right now is Oklahoma State, and then you got Texas Tech, West Virginia, and Oklahoma are the bottom 3.
Yeah, I think 7 is a good magic number for them, and I think you could get an 8th team with depending on what happens in the next couple of weeks heading into the Big 12 tournament.
Yeah, these next couple of weeks, you're exactly right, will be the factor for teams like Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, West Virginia, because hey, even if they don't make it, they will be in the NIT, so their conference will be represented in the NIT and NCAA. But to go dancing these next couple of weeks, one of those 4 teams got to make a run.
All right. So out of the best conference in college basketball so far this year, what 2-3 teams do you think has a chance to make a long run in the tournament?
Kansas definitely.
Right.
They've proved to me throughout the season that they're cut above a lot of the other teams in the country. And that comeback yesterday was just another.
Yeah.
To show that more. Baylor, I still think can be that team that can get to the Final Four. I think the experience, there's still a couple guys, holdovers from that 2021 championship team on there. I think they have the experience and the depth to get there. The 3rd team I'd have to say would probably, I'd say probably be TCU. I think if Miles is healthy and he played yesterday and they won, if he stays healthy and their team stays healthy, I think they have enough athleticism and firepower to get there. Now, whether they do it or not is another thing. And I think a big thing for them is number one, how they finish the season, and number two, where they get seeded in the tournament.
Yes,
I mean, that's obviously always.
Well, I mean, always, how the seedings play out is always a big factor.
It is. But I think even more for a team like TCU, I think they might almost need a favor from the committee to get that, like, not that they're going to get it. They get that easy first game. You don't want to be in that. You don't want to be in that 5-12 game against a team that's like if they finish that 5 seed, you get that 5-12 game. And
or 6-11, 5-12, 6-11.
6-11.
Yeah.
You get a team that comes off winning their conference tournament in a solid mid-major conference, and they come in and they play a really good game. That first game, we could be going right then and there. So like we talked about, you said before the show, Brad, there's going to be a lot of upsets this year.
Oh yeah, I think so. I think we were talking about before the show, and from 10 to 60. I think there's going to be a whole lot of upsets in this tournament coming up.
I think I agree with that. There's going to be a lot of upsets. Anything below the 4 seed, like you're a 5, 12, 6, 11.
Even 4 seeds get picked off a lot of years.
They do.
Yeah.
And in this tournament, they could, because that 4 seed playing that 13 seed. I mean, you think about it right now. A team like Charleston, now that they've lost a couple games, they win that CAA. They're probably going to be.
They usually, there's usually at least 1 or 2 4 down.
Yeah, so I mean, 13 seed playing a 4, that team could go down too. So, I mean, who I hate to say is right for the pickings if they end up with probably end up with a 3 or 4. The way they're looking now is Tennessee. They just they look like for an upset that first weekend. Unfortunately, they just.
Yeah, I agree with you. So in the Big 12, you don't think Texas will be a team that could make a run to the Final Four?
I mean,
I'm not so sure about winning it, but make a run to the Final Four. Say
they have played remarkably well since everything that happened with Chris Beard, but
they have.
But I don't know. I just don't see them being a Final Four team. I just don't. That's just me, but I don't. So
I think I think they're losing their identity. Especially when Chris Beard went out, the coach staff did a good job of keeping the core group of guys together and keeping that team together through all that turmoil, but the way Texas looked 2 months ago to oppose that they look today, it's like they're having trouble scoring. They remind me of Tennessee at times. They have trouble scoring. Great defensive team. But sometimes they have trouble making their shots as well. And so Texas is one of those teams as well that I'd be afraid to for them if they end up getting like a 4 seed, 4 or 5 seed, depending on how they play. Yeah,
I haven't really seen them play in the last couple of weeks, but
about a week ago, they were playing pretty well. Now that they lost a game last week, and but they had been winning some games.
Well, it could be the gauntlet, and it could be the Big 12.
Right.
It's a gauntlet, so that has a lot to do with because they all know their tendencies, things like that. So it has a lot to do with their conference. So they might look different. They might get on the road and take it. So I can understand exactly why you asked.
Yeah. But I just.
Go ahead. That's all true.
I don't see them making a run, and that I think maybe the whole everything happened with Chris Beard is somehow just going to catch up to him at the.
Well, right now in the rankings for the net rankings, Kansas is number 6, Tennessee's number 9. These are the projected tournament rankings. Baylor's 12, Iowa State's 15, Kansas State is 20, TCU's 22. Okay. That's the top 6.
Gotcha.
In the net rankings.
See, that TCU being 22 would put you squarely like a 5 or 6 seed, though. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Squarely like that 5 or 6 spot. So let's see. I mean, they got a couple weeks now. Now Miles came back, so they got a big game tomorrow night. They play Kansas, and then
there's two solid weeks left before the conference.
And of course, they had their Big 12 tournaments. They come on strong and have a good finish. They can move themselves up to the 3 or 4 line, and I think they'd feel a lot more comfortable than that regard. So,
all right, Jason, you got any more questions about the Big 12 or any team or anything for Steve?
Nah, man, we can move on to the Big 10.
All right, so we're going to go on to the Big 10 then. So the Big 10 is Purdue, of course, Purdue's lost. They lost 2 games
I think it's 3 or 4
before
they've
yesterday.
lost. 3 or 4
Yeah.
they've lost.
Yeah, but they were 21-1 or 22-1 or something like that. And then you have a whole bunch of teams that are within a couple of games of each other. So what do you think of the Big Ten?
I just think it's going to be like it's been the last several years. I think you're going to see maybe Purdue get to like the Sweet 16 Final 8 and everybody else will maybe 1 or 2 other teams gets to Sweet 16 and come Final Four team come Final Four time, everybody from the Big Ten's gone. I think it's like I kind of think it's like it's like the Big East and like it's like a battle every night, but I think I think that there's just a big like clump in the middle of all the teams are pretty much even, and then they beat each other up. And I think it doesn't help them going to that 20-game schedule because it's just 2 more games. Usually 18 games, 2 more games you have to play against those teams all season. Then you get to the Big Ten tournament, and I think half the teams when they get to the Big Ten tournament, if they're already in the NCAA tournament, they're just this is just almost like let's just take a break and rest our guys. And that they don't think that way, but I almost think they should think that way and just like let's take a break. And a couple years ago, was it probably 4 or 5 years ago before COVID, they had the Big Ten tournament the week before. Remember they had like a week lag because they had it at the Garden. Right. And I think that was probably the best thing ever for that conference because then you had the week. They would say it was a bad thing, but it was a good thing because you had the week lag. The tournament was over Sunday, March 5th. It would be like then the whole week off, and then the tournament selection show was the next Sunday. So they almost had like a week and a half off. And the coaches were complaining because they were like, well, what are we going to do about not having a game? But I think in a way, I mean, that might be better for a conference like that because you just beat each other up so much during the season. You just get like a nice break. You can scrimmage or maybe play like a Division II team, grab a team that's in the area or anybody to, just to kind of get a game in and get some action in. But it just so many big teams get picked off in those first couple of days. And I think it'll be the same this year because they're just beat down from the season. They get in there and they get a team that's hot and then boom, they're gone.
Well, it is a kind of a grind in there, and they do beat up each other a lot in the Big Ten, and that's the reason why you see everybody with 5, 6, 7 losses, right now in the conference.
If I had to predict, I'd say Purdue could probably. I don't think they're a Final Four team. A lot of people would disagree with me. I don't think they're a Final Four team. I think maybe Elite 8. I think it showed in the last couple of games they played that they rely a lot too much on Zach Edey, and then
it's the guard play that's going to get them.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, Zach Edey is going to produce, but then if the guards don't, you're in trouble. So
that's where their biggest kryptonite on their team is not Zach Edey. Zach Edey's going to get his. Yeah. Zach Edey's going to get his. What's going to get them is the 2 freshman guards.
And I think in the tournament. Like I don't know if I watched a few minutes earlier today. North Carolina was playing NC State, and they had 2 great guards, and NC State beat North Carolina. But I mean, that's in the tournament. You're going to see a lot of teams like that have great guards. A lot of mid-major teams that Purdue, you can catch Purdue on an off night, or even just a solid team that's like a number, like say Purdue's the number 1 seed in the Midwest, a team that's like a number 8 or 9 seed that wins that first game, comes in, plays Purdue in the round of 32, and they have great guards. Say it's like a second-tier Big East team, like a.
Right.
Off the top of my head, but a team that just gets in the tournament as an 8-9 seed and wins that first game, and then boom,
Yeah, and then you got to play that 1 seed.
Play the 1 seed. But I mean, you saw. I mean, hey, it could be a team like Kentucky gets that 8 seed, and they're playing.
It absolutely could be. I'm actually pretty worried about that 8-9 seed right this minute. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it's gonna be something like that. As for the next tier, the Big Ten, I think they'll probably get 7, 8 teams in, including Purdue, and then I just don't think many of them are going to get out of that.
Right now, projected teams, according to the net rankings, are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
8. Okay.
It goes Purdue, Indiana, Maryland, Illinois, Rutgers, Iowa, Michigan State, and Northwestern.
Okay. Yeah, I can see. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I mean.
So the ones out are Penn State, Michigan, Wisconsin are the ones that have kind of been, on the borderline.
But let me ask you this. Is Michigan State worthy of consideration in the NCAA tournament?
You know,
I think they're going to have
be,
they're going to have to play well down the stretch.
Yeah, you
They're
got
gonna
Northwest at the.
I think that
2-6 right
Michigan
now.
State could flop. I mean, Michigan State could flip flop with Penn State or one of the other teams that you just mentioned. I think Michigan State's far from certain.
Well, Michigan State is 40th in the net rankings right now.
Okay,
that's where they are.
That's what I'm not
He
figuring.
does. Tom Izzo does play a ridiculously tough.
Yeah,
Yeah, he does. He does. Okay.
And they're the second ranked conference in the country. So, you know, and they're ranked 40th in the net rankings.
Yeah,
but Jason, I'm with you. They're 16 and 10. They are. Are y'all looking at it? What's their conference record?
I'm looking at it right now.
What's their conference record? It's not great.
They're
8-7.
8-7. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And you know, I agree with you. You know, Michigan State is the one team out of those that I would say I'm just not real sure. You know, if they deserve to be in or not.
Well, because this based on the standards, like he said before, this is a log jam from fourth all the way down. It's a log jam. So
there is.
These next 2 weeks can really move some teams up, move some teams down, and man, these conference tournaments is going to be real serious, more than ever this year, because you're going to have to win a couple games to look good to the committee. You know, neutral site games, especially right now. If your team can't get up to play, no matter how bad your fan base is going to travel and whatever the money you can produce, man, it's going to be a lot of teams on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
My thing on the Big Ten, so, you know, a couple of weeks ago, I thought Purdue could have made it to the Final Four.
Exactly.
I think they've been a little bit exposed the last couple of weeks by some good guard play, some good teams. Indiana certainly played a really good game against them a couple of weeks ago and beat them in Bloomington. And then they've lost a couple of games. Lost a couple of games since then as well. So, you know.
You guys said something earlier, man, that really made sense. And it hit me. Edie can be shut down. And the guard player is going to have to play well, because when you get in this tournament, you might run to a team where all 5 guys can make shots. And then will Edie come out? Will he come out? Will he guard on the perimeter? I think.
Well, I can tell you this much. So the Indiana game, they got behind really big, you know, in the half, and it was because Edie got in foul trouble and had to be on the bench.
No doubt.
So, you know, if Edie picks up 2 or 3 fouls in the first half and has to sit out, or picks up early third foul, you know, in the second half and has to sit out, it's going to be, you know, Purdue's going to struggle in that game, no matter who's playing in the tournament. Yeah. So we have John Roberts that's joined us, guys. John, come in. I just want to introduce John Roberts. He's in with us today now. So, but we're talking Big Ten basketball here, John. We're kind of running through each conference and going through it with Steve Hiegel here. So, just giving him a little update since he's joining us a little late. For me, that's where I think Purdue will probably get picked off. There'll be 2 things that will do it. One will be foul trouble for Edie, and 2 will be the 2 freshman guards just being outplayed in the tournament, running up against a team. Yeah.
They're going to run up against a team that's going to have junior or senior guards that are capable of handling the ball and putting pressure on them late in the game, especially if the game's close, obviously. But that's going to be the key factor. Can they overcome that? And like I said, it could come in that first weekend when they play. If they're 1 seed, they play that 8-9 game. It could be a very tough
team.
They could upset.
Yeah, I mean, it could happen. You're right. The only other team, in my opinion, in the Big Ten that is a dark horse to maybe make a little noise in the tournament would be Indiana. I think Indiana has the players Trace Jackson Davis is a beast, and the guard play for Indiana is starting to come around. And I really think Indiana could be a dark horse to make it further than what people thought a month ago. When you were on with us a month ago, Steve, Indiana was not even talked about much.
True. Yeah. Yeah. They do have a solid nucleus of players. I've seen the good and the bad with them. I saw them play earlier in the season a couple times, and they played North Carolina, and they beat them. They played very well, and they played somebody else in the non-conference game. And then, of course, in the conference games, I've seen them play a couple bad games. They did beat Illinois yesterday, and they beat Purdue. I think in the end, it depends what team shows up. If the good Indiana shows up, they can beat almost anybody. If the bad Indiana shows up, they can lose to almost anybody. And I think that it's going to depend on what team shows up in March. And I think you'll know probably better how they'll fare in the tournament as you see how they do in the Big Ten tournament this next month.
Oh, I think so as well. Yeah. All right. So we are going to move on to our next conference, and the third ranked conference, according to the net rankings, is Southeastern Conference, SEC. So the SEC, I noticed this morning in a lot of bracketology, I think they now have 9 teams in, I believe, in bracketology. They even had Mississippi State in at the bottom. Of course, Auburn, Kentucky, Texas A&M. But I'm pretty sure it was either 8 or 9. But I'm pretty sure it was 9.
Yeah, I definitely can see 9 teams getting in from the SEC. It's been a really strong conference all season long. A&M, I guess they got to make it up no matter what happens. Make it up last year, not putting in A&M in. Definitely put them in this year. And they've had a great conference season this year. They've kind of not as great in the non-conference, but they've been great in the SEC. They're in second place right now in the conference. Look at the standings there.
It was 8. It was 8. It was 8 teams.
I'm looking at it. I mean, you got Eric.
Wait, see, so you got Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas A&M, Auburn, Kentucky, Mississippi State, and Missouri.
Okay.
Those are the 8.
Hey, listen. You better be aware of Mr. Jerry Stackhouse and the Vanderbilt Commodores. The Commodores might be a long shot, but he got that team playing well. Not saying that they're going to get in the NCAA tournament, but I wouldn't be surprised if they make a little noise in that SEC tournament.
I think they could, yeah. I think they definitely could.
I think they can. And I think me and Steve was actually talking about Vanderbilt a little bit before the show. Vanderbilt's played really well lately. They play Kentucky next. They have another big game, another chance to make some noise. They're 15-12. The only thing with them is they were so far down. They're 89th in the net rankings.
Gotcha.
And that's just, you almost have to be top 50 to be an at-large team. So they're still pretty far down there right this minute. So I think right now for Vandy, they would almost have to make at least a run to the championship game in the SEC tournament.
What would with Auburn having the struggles that they're having right now, what are the chances that they could fall out of the NCAA tournament?
I think for them to fall out, they just have to have a catastrophic.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like 0-4.
Yeah, probably 0-4, then maybe 1-3, and then losing the first game of the SEC tournament. I think they're pretty safe to be in the tournament unless they just lose from here, pretty much.
Because I was looking at it, and it's Ole Miss, Alabama, Tennessee, and Kentucky are their final 4 games. Not in that order, but that's the.
So if
Ole Miss surely is a win.
Yeah, if you beat Ole Miss and lose the other 3, you're still in. Because those are 3 other good teams you're playing. If you lose to Ole Miss and you lose all 4 games, including lose to Ole Miss, then you got to start worrying. Come the beginning of the SEC tournament, you might need a couple games.
Just wanted to know how strong that footing was right now, because it is.
Yeah, I still
seems to be slipping.
Yeah, I
Well,
still think they're
so
pretty strong. I mean,
they're ranked 30th still in the net rankings. So,
Right.
that's still a quad one level in the top 30.
yeah.
So they are now 30 is it for the quad one level, but that's still a quad one level for Auburn. And at that state, they're definitely in. Now,
Right.
they lose to Mississippi and lose the other 3 games, we may have to have a different conversation. I'm not
True.
Right. Right.
yeah, but
Can't
right now I think
can't
so.
lose games at the end of the game. Gotta finish games.
Yeah,
That's the biggest thing for them right now. So
right. So, I want to say this. So I think Alabama looks like one of the top teams in the country. I fully right now, before the bracket comes out, before you get to see who plays who and stuff, I would say Alabama is in that 2 or 3 team tier that has a chance to win it all. What do you?
I agree. I mean, I think they check every box. People forget. I mean, you look at a neutral court win they had over Houston back in December. I mean, that was Houston's first loss, and Houston got upset by Temple since then. But I mean, neutral court beating another top 5 team. I mean, they're right there. I mean, they barely lost it all season. That was their first loss in SEC play, was just the other night when they lost the game the other night. But that was their first loss in SEC. They were 12-0 in SEC play going into that game.
right.
So, also, I mean, I'd have to look at the remaining schedule, but they might not lose again in SEC play. So,
Yeah, probably not.
The SEC tournament. I mean, 23-4. I'm just looking at the record. They played UConn. They lost in that tournament up there
preseason
in Oregon.
tournament.
Lost to Gonzaga. Lost to that game to Oklahoma, of course, and then of course they lost the other day at Tennessee. But they finished at South Carolina, home against Arkansas, home against Auburn, at A&M. They could lose 1 or 2. They could lose, I'd say 2 of those games, but I think that's a chance they probably finish 3-1 on that slate, and then they win that SEC tournament or get to the championship game. I think they're definitely a number 1 seed. They have possibility of being the number 1 overall seed. Yeah.
Oh, right now, I still would put them as the number 1 overall seed, even though they got beat this past week.
I think it could hinge down. Now they did beat Houston on neutral court. If Houston runs the table and wins the rest of their games and wins that AAC, I think it could go either way.
Yeah.
They did now. Granted, they have the head-to-head win over them on a neutral court, but still, Houston would only have 2 losses all season, including one back in December and one in like mid-January. So it could go either way, though. I could see the other teams getting the top overall seed. And then
You got a tough game today. Memphis,
yeah, they're playing.
Memphis is.
I'm watching that now. I'm
Yeah.
watching that right now. That game's it's gonna go down to the wire like all the rest of them. Texas A&M
Yeah.
is an interesting team to me. I think they are set up for a tournament style play because their guard play has been spectacular these last couple weeks, and they play defense.
That trapping D they play is tenacious. And
I think they have some of the most undersized, undervalued bigs in the country because they play hard. They play like grown men. They allow those guards really to play in up-tempo style because they don't demand the ball, but they control the glass. And they play hard. And I think that's a good recipe to come into a tournament. When a lot of kids are not playing hard, like they're playing hard every possession. You could tell Buzz is really strictly enforced. Play hard and crash the glass and get to the free throw line. Something they do well. They draw fouls. They make you foul.
And they hit free throws well.
They've kind of fallen under the radar this year too. I mean, in SEC play. I mean, they're 12-2 in the conference, but it seems like they've kind of been under the radar. So I mean,
but that's so strange. Any other team goes 12-2, and everybody in the country is going to know who they are.
I just think because it was because of their rough non-conference slate, and they weren't very good in the non-conference, and they've kind of come on strong since conference play. But yeah, they've been right behind Alabama, 1 game behind them in the conference standings. So very interesting.
Well, I mean, it could come down to a game between Texas and Alabama at the end of the season for the number 1 spot in the SEC. I mean, it could.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. Tennessee. Let's get to Tennessee real quick out of the SEC. Tennessee's got a really good team that has struggled the last 3 weeks or so. So where do you think Tennessee falls? I mean, are they a 3 seed? Are they a 4 seed? Are they a 2 seed? And is their top after playing like this, like Sweet 16 or Elite 8?
Yeah, I think they fall anywhere from a 3 to 5. And I just think they're right. They're the way they're playing. I mean, they did beat Alabama the other night at home.
Yeah.
But
That was
I
at
just think
home,
they're
though.
right for that was at home. Yeah, I think they're right for an
Yeah.
upset, unfortunately, in the first weekend. I just think they just seem like they kind of like it's not that they don't show up for games, but they just kind of you just don't know what you're going to get on a nightly basis. And I think if you see them get beat early in the SEC tournament, I think you're going to see them probably get eliminated pretty quickly in the NCAA tournament as well. I think they've probably sometimes teams peak like way too soon. I think they might be a team that peaked in January.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way now. Yeah.
Toward the end of the
So
season.
I guess my last question, I'm a Kentucky fan, so we got to talk about Kentucky just for a minute. What's your thoughts on I mean, Big Blue had a good week this past week. The week before was horrible. What's your take on Kentucky and kind of their ceiling, I guess?
I think about anywhere from 7 to 10 seed now, and I think that'll probably, as long as they stay the course, next couple weeks and in the SEC tournament. I mean, I think you could definitely get to the Sweet 16. Elite 8 is probably the high point. I don't think they're a Final Four team. I think there's some holes in the team. I think it's a good Kentucky team, not a great Kentucky team, and I think they rely too much on Oscar Tshiebwe. They don't have enough other pieces around him to make it,
Well, they got 2 or 3, but 2 or 3 pieces is not enough, to.
Yeah, and I've noticed
a great team.
Yeah, I don't know. Just maybe it's just me. I just think their ceiling is probably about Elite 8 if you get the right matchup.
Well, now I'm going to be honest with you. I think after the season that they have had so far, the Big Blue Nation would probably be pretty happy if we get to the Sweet 16.
Oh, I'm sure they would. Yeah. I mean, hey, last year, I mean, look at North Carolina. They came on late and they went to the final, the championship game, and I think most of their fans would have been happy just getting to just getting in the tournament at one point, and then winning a game or two would be great, and then they just get winning and winning. So, but yeah, I think Sweet 16, Elite 8, I think would be the high point for Kentucky this season. And of course, that's assuming they finish pretty strong.
Any other SEC questions, guys, that y'all have for Steve? All right, so we're going to move.
The SEC is pretty self-explanatory.
All right, so we're going to move on to the Big East. I like this.
Yeah.
I like the top 4 or 5 difference. I want to know, how many do you think gets in? A lot of people are saying they think that they're just going to get 4 in. I think there is at least 5 teams that deserve in this conference.
5 teams ranked. So what's 5 teams ranked right now?
Yeah. So what's your take on it, Steve?
Pulling up the conference standings right now. I mean, I think Xavier definitely in, Marquette in, Providence. They got 5 teams ranked. I would say all of them are in.
That's what I say. And then you got Seton Hall
and Villanova. They
coming
make a
on.
run. That's about it. St. John's has been a disappointment this year, like so many other seasons.
Right.
I'd say either Seton Hall or Villanova. The unfortunate part of Villanova is they started out slow. They didn't have a couple of their players.
Started out so terrible. Yeah.
And they just seem like they can't make up the gap from what they started out. Seton Hall's a team that you could see making a run in the Big East tournament. I mean, they stayed with UConn yesterday. They eventually succumbed and lost, but I think that's a team that could be borderline as we get into the last couple of weeks of the season in the Big East tournament. They could possibly make a run. But I think 5 is a good number for the Big East to get in the tournament. But I think also a couple of those teams could make. I think you're going to see a Big East team in the Final Four. I for sure I couldn't predict which one. I think one of those 5 teams could make.
I have told Jason on this show that you are going to see either a Big East or a Mountain West team in the Final Four. One of those teams.
I think Big East is more certain than Mountain West, but yeah, I could possibly see that as well.
You seen Creighton was a
those-
preseason Final Four team,
Yeah.
and they're starting to pick up momentum in conference.
Yeah.
They're
two teams
conference schedule. Yeah.
The two teams that impressed me the most, though, are Connecticut and Xavier. Connecticut was playing lights out a month ago, and they've kind of fallen off since then. I mean, they're 9-7 in the conference, but Xavier just all season is look better and better. I mean, Marquette's winning the conference right now.
Marquette has looked good all year.
I mean, I think one of those 5 teams is going to make a deep run in the tournament.
Jason, I'm kind of with you. I really like this Creighton team, and I liked them early on, and they had some injuries and had a guy out, had one of their guards out, and went through a tough time for about 5 or 6 games, losing like 5-6 or something like that. And then when they got their guy back, they've won 8 of their last 9 or 9 of their last 10, something like that. And I really like this Creighton team.
Yeah, those 5 teams that are ranked, I would not be surprised to see any of them in the Final Four. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think it's pretty on a nightly basis in the Big East with those 5. It's pretty. You almost can flip a coin to who's going to beat who, depending on home court advantage. And
exactly.
So I am going to say this. Y'all keep saying out of those 5, I feel like Providence is just a little notch below the other 4. Not a lot, but just a little bit. I think if you're going to see a Final Four team out of the Big East, I think it'll be either UConn, Creighton, or Xavier. Those are my 4 teams to look for to possibly make a Final Four run.
I can agree with that. Now, Providence, the one thing about Providence is they play – now, of course, going into the postseason, you're going to play on a neutral court. They play so well that arena is just a big advantage for them. And they play so well. They're not granted.
And they're a great team. I'm not taking anything wrong with them. But Final Four is a hard deal to make. Now, can Providence make the Elite 8, Sweet 16, Elite 8? Absolutely. They got a great team. Final Four is kind of a tough deal to do.
I agree.
Well, yeah, and you guys are right. But we all do know, depending on the seeding, and there could be upsets in certain parts of the bracket. Somebody's road to the Final Four may be a little easier than some of the other roads to the Final Four. That's the only factor I see. But Providence, well coached, plays hard. You're looking at their record 12-4, 20-7 overall, going through the gauntlet of the Big East.
Yeah.
I mean, these conference tournaments, they're going to be very, very good. They're very, very good.
Yep, I agree. All right, guys, we're going to move on to the Mountain West. They are the 5th ranked conference in the net rankings. The Mountain West is. So, conference we're going to go to next is the West. And I will give you guys a little update here right now. According to the net rankings, there is still 5 teams in the Mountain West.
Ooh.
You got San Diego State, Boise State, Nevada, Utah State, and New Mexico. That's the 5 teams that are listed as in the bracketology.
Yeah, I see all 5 of those teams getting in.
Just on the outside is UNLV. They're the only other team, I think, in the conference that could maybe make a little noise in the, conference tournament or something, and have a chance to get it.
They technically have the home court because they play the conference tournament.
Yes, it's because it's usually in Vegas there. So they have the home court advantage and stuff. So UNLV is the only other team that I could see, in out of the Mountain West because it's played in Vegas and stuff like that as well. So, but I really so New Mexico House has been hurt, and they were like 19-3 before he got hurt, and he's coming back, and they were 18-3. I'm sorry, and now they're 19-7. So they've lost 4 of their last 5 games without their guard, without their point guard. Their lead guard, basically. And but before he was out, I really liked this New Mexico team. And San Diego State, what can you say about them? I mean, they're always a tough out. I mean, somebody, I don't know where they're going to get. They're 17th in the net rankings. So, will they get a 5 seed, or will they be a 6 or 7?
5 or 6 is probably a good spot for them. I think Mountain West. I think of all the 5, I think you can see, and it'd be tough to choose the 2. I think about 2 can get to the Sweet 16. Maybe 1 can get to the Elite 8. I don't see a Final Four team there. But I see 2.
I'm going to tell you right now, Boise State sitting at 23 in the net rankings right this minute. And I'm telling every team out there, if you get matched with Boise State, you better watch that first weekend, that first game, because Boise State has got a hell of a team.
I mean, Mountain West has improved dramatically in the last 5 to 10 years in terms of overall conference. I mean, it used to be obviously a 1-bid league, and now we're talking 5 teams are getting the tournament. And they were saying on TV yesterday that it might be a better conference this year than the ACC. It actually is. It's ranked.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. They're the 5th ranked conference right now.
You never would have thought that 5-10 years ago. The ACC, has really fallen off. I mean, God, look. I mean, they won yesterday. I'm not trying to change the conversation to the ACC, but granted, yesterday Louisville won. But God, they've won 4 games all year. I mean, they're just awful.
Oh my God, I don't even that was just a. What in the world?
Yeah, Mountain West anyway, though. But back to the Mountain West. Yeah, I mean, 5 teams in the tournament, I think, will be the number. And it could drop to 4 if somebody falls off in the last couple weeks. But it could drop to 4. But I think 2 in the Sweet 16, maybe 1 in the Elite 8 is probably the best they're going to do. And I think last year, if I remember correctly, they only got 1 past the first weekend in the Sweet 16. If I remember, I could be wrong. But
I think they got 4 in last.
No, I'm saying, but I think they only got 1 actually in the Sweet 16. I think.
Yeah, but I'm saying tournament, and then I think only 1.
Tournament, yeah.
They might have got 5, but I think it was 4. I believe
it was either 4 or 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think getting past the first weekend probably just 1.
I just want the whole country to know that they play some really good basketball in the Mountain West Conference.
Oh no, their games are very entertaining to see. Yeah, I mean they're on CBS Sports Network and FS1 late at night. I'm on the East Coast, so yeah, it's great. It's great basketball to watch.
They play some really good basketball out there,
and they have some great arenas that look like.
Yeah, go to the Pit in New Mexico.
Pit, yeah, Colorado State's arena, Air Force. I mean, some of them are just great arenas and great venues to see a game in.
It's in the ground. So that's the reason it.
I'm gonna get there one day.
Place. Yeah. All right. So the 6th ranked conference in the country right now is the Pac-12. When you look at the Pac-12, I'm just going to say it right off the bat. Do they get more teams in besides UCLA and Arizona?
I want to say there'll be a 3rd team. I think USC should be able to play their way in, hopefully not play their way out. Arizona State, I don't know. I mean, they're 19-9 overall. I think if they made
but they have fought big time.
They have. I mean, Oregon's been a disappointment this year. I think 3.
Utah
maybe
has an outside chance.
Yeah, I think you're going to look at. I think you're looking at 3 with maybe Arizona State making a strong Pac-12 conference tournament run to get
or USC.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think 3. I think they'll get 3. Yeah, Arizona State.
You got USC in with a 3, and then maybe
I think
a 4.
They're in now. Yeah, they're in now, and unless they fall off a cliff in the last couple of weeks and lose all their games, or they can be replaced by Arizona State if they can kind of make a run and win the last couple weeks worth of games. I think either one of the 2 of them will be in, and of course Arizona and UCLA are already in. I mean, they're in for sure.
Right. So Arizona and UCLA are.
Maybe a surprise team in the tournament. I don't think so. So 4 at most, but I think probably 3 is the good number for the conference.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. You see that because that's the Pac-12 conference. I know, of course, USC and UCLA are leaving in a couple years to go to the Big Ten, but that's just sad because you got the Mountain West is right there too, and they're going to get probably 4 or 5 teams.
Yeah, and they could get 5.
The bottom of the Pac-12. The bottom of the Pac-12 is pretty bad, unfortunately. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, it
So,
is.
same like the
It
bottom of the
really
SEC.
the last 5-6 teams in the Pac-12 are pretty bad.
Yeah.
And then so I guess my next Pac-12 is this: UCLA, Arizona. Can either one of those teams make them to win it all? And is there a team that could get to the Final Four? Basically, those two questions.
I think Arizona can make a run. I think they can both make runs. I think Arizona can get to the Final Four. I think last year in Tommy Lloyd's first season there, they had a capable team. They it seemed like maybe with the experience now, because he was a brand new head coach. I think now with the experience of a lot of those players back from the 2022 tournament team, I think Arizona can get to the Final Four at Houston. UCLA, I know everybody says, well, they made it there a couple years ago and they have most of those guys back. They do. I don't know. I've seen them play a couple times this season and they're good. I don't think they're Final Four bound. I think they're Sweet 16 Elite 18. I think both those teams will be in the Sweet 16. Arizona can take the next step. I don't think UCLA will. And of course, if USC or Arizona State gets in the tournament, I think
UCLA is currently 4th in the net rankings, and Arizona's 11th.
Yeah, I'm more of a believer in Arizona than UCLA, but of course, I obviously could be wrong. So that's my
all right.
opinion. I just think Arizona's got the depth. I think UCLA, if I had to say anything about them, I think they rely too much on the one player, Jaime Jaquez. I don't think they have enough around him, And I think what's going to hurt both teams in the tournament is the fact that the conference has been so weak this year, and you haven't played. Now they both play tough non-conference schedules, but play. You go that it's like kind of what they said about Gonzaga for years. You're playing that conference. Now that conference got much better, but still playing that conference, you're not playing, like playing in the Big Ten every night with all the tough teams or the SEC or of course Big 12 this season. But I think the Pac-12, that's going to hurt those two teams this season when they get in the tournament to a tight game where they're used to just beating up on the Oregon States and talk about a disappointment this year. Not to change something, Oregon. God, they've been a disappointment. I thought they would be much better. Oregon. They've had a couple upsets wins, but they've been
Washington. I really thought after Washington got Keon Brooks and a couple of kids with him, that they might be a little better. And they've
been disappointing.
They just haven't been. Yeah. All right. Either one of you two guys got a question about Pac-12, or has he hit the button on where it's supposed to be? Pretty much.
Yep.
Pretty much.
All right.
It's only two teams out there that you really know about. That, to me, that really going to have a chance to do anything.
I think USC has a chance to win one or two games. Probably.
I do. They won't get out.
Depending on the draw.
Yeah. Depending on the draw, they can win a game or two.
Depending on the draw. All right. So then we're going to get finally, by the way, I just want to say this. We're going to get to the ACC, who is the 7th ranked conference in the country, by the way. Half of this conference is atrocious. Atrocious. Like, they don't even deserve to play basketball, to like tie up their shoes. They're atrocious. I'm serious. Like,
I followed the ACC. I know. I followed the ACC growing up, and this is
by far.
I don't know that I have ever seen full teams that can only win 3 or 4 ball games a year.
Is this the worst it's ever been?
I think this is the worst the ACC, because I'm 45 years old in my lifetime. This is the worst I've ever seen the ACC. Growing up, it was a lot of years it was the best conference, and there were some down years.
They'd be 8, 9, 10 teams, that were killing it.
And of course they expanded the conference 10 years ago with the football money and everything else. But yeah, this is. I mean, Louisville. The fact that their overall record is what, 3 wins, 4.
They won a 4th game yesterday. Yeah,
it's all those blue bloods.
Yeah, no, I mean Florida State overall is 8-20. Notre Dame 10-17. Yeah, I mean
Georgia Tech. I mean, seriously, these teams are atrocious.
Yeah,
Florida State.
The the saving grace for the conference last year, I think a lot of people, even though they had a bad season, I think they got 5 in the tournament last year. They had 3 in the final 8, and Miami, Duke, and Carolina, and then Duke and Carolina both made it to the final 4. So, I mean, that kind of saved. This year, one team might get – you know who actually, more than anybody else in the conference this year who can get to the final 4 in the ACC, I think is Miami. Miami is good. I mean, I remember when they beat Auburn last year in that tournament. I watched them a couple times during the year, and they just they're playing well. They have so much athleticism and versatility. They can beat just about anybody. And they were.
Virginia's defense.
They do,
and they're going to hold whoever they're playing to 50-some points. You're going to have to be a grinded out 60 points, 62 points. You're going to have to grind it out, win.
I think their ceiling is about Sweet 16.
Yeah, Sweet 16.
Somebody's going to grind it out. Somebody's going to grind it out with them and just beat them. Like, who could beat them like that way? It's probably Purdue. Now they might not be in the same bracket and they might not meet, but just grind it out 52 to 50 win.
Could Tennessee grind it out with them?
Tennessee, yeah, I think they could. I think a lot.
That's a good one.
It seems like a lot of teams can grind it out with them because this past week in the ACC they had 2 games. They beat Notre Dame by what?
They beat Louisville by 3. They had to beat. They barely beat Louisville.
Yeah, I mean they're and the Duke game last. Don't get me started on the Duke game last year. They should have lost that game. I don't know what's that. I mean, that was definitely a foul.
How did they barely beat? I don't know how they barely beat Louisville.
I remember seeing scores. That's just how Virginia plays. They're like almost going to keep anybody in it. So, just keeping teams in it, I think somebody's going to catch them and beat them in their own game. And sometimes,
all right. So Duke is 19-8 now. Duke has come on. They were like, I don't know, 16 or 14-7 or something, 13-7, something like that. They're 19-8 now.
How many teams did they say they were going to get in? How many teams were they projected to get in?
Right now it says 5. Right now it says, but North Carolina is the last team in. And after today, I'm almost like it. No. Seriously, North Carolina is now 16-11 and in 9th place in the 7th ranked conference in the country. Come on, guys. Seriously, North Carolina does not deserve to get in this tournament. They are in 9th place in the ACC, which is the 7th ranked conference.
They do have 9th. They do still have a chance if they run the table. Of course, they have to play Virginia.
The only way to me right now, after today, the only way North Carolina should get in this tournament is if they run at least all the way to the ACC championship.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. Yeah, I mean, the sad thing is about the conferences is as good as Clemson's done in the conference. I mean, they're not even going to make it, and they're 11-5 in the conference.
Yeah, but they just got beat yesterday by Louisville. You can't get it like that's no. Yeah. I'm sorry.
But I think they were. I don't think they weren't even going to be in even before they lost to Louisville.
They were close. They were close before they lost to Louisville. But yesterday, when they lost to Louisville, that's done. I mean, I'm sorry. You're out.
I think for teams, I think you got Virginia, of course, is in. Miami's in. I think NC State, of course, beating Carolina isn't a super marquee win this year, but I think NC State's definitely in. Duke and Pitt, I think, are the last 2. I think Wake has a chance if they make a run in the ACC tournament.
Wake.
Yeah, but that's about it. Yeah, Carolina, again, unless they make a crazy run in the last couple of weeks.
So you're saying Clemson? It was just about a month ago. Clemson.
I know.
A month ago, Clemson
was
running the ACC.
They were number 1. They were 8 in the ACC.
Yeah, but even now they're 11-5. They're 11-5 in the conference, but yeah, they're not going to make it. I mean, they haven't beaten anybody of note, and yeah, they lost to Louisville.
I'm telling you, after yesterday, it's over.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say it was over.
Well,
I wouldn't say it was over.
That's a bad. That's a quad
just a
four.
bad-
That's a
yeah.
bad quad four loss.
Yeah, that's
Man.
a bad loss. That's a bad
I
loss.
mean,
That's-
talking to a team only won 4 games all year. You lost to.
Let me
Yeah,
tell
I
you how
understand.
bad of a loss that is. Okay, Virginia beat Louisville by 3 points earlier in this week. Virginia dropped 14 places in the net rankings
I believe
by beating Louisville
by beating.
by 3 points.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean,
That's just
come on.
weird.
Yeah,
Going
come on now.
dropping that many spots just for winning.
Yeah, because it's such a
game.
bit because they beat such a bad team by such a narrow margin. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to remember, was the
Yeah.
game at Louisville? I think it actually was at Louisville.
Yeah, it was at
Still.
Louisville. Yeah.
But
yeah,
still,
it was.
it's still that's a terrible. I mean, you could beat a
I
team
mean,
like that, and they
they
had, Louisville had a
dropped
chance
that
to win.
many
They had a chance to win
spots.
the game. What's that?
That's sad.
Yeah, I mean,
They
had
dropped
a chance to win the
to
game.
that many spots by beating Louisville. So you tell me
I believe.
losing to Louisville by 10 points. I mean, come on.
Well, all thing I will say is that there are teams, and obviously Louisville was at home, and hey, one game, Louisville deserved to win that game. They made shots.
Need to be
Yeah.
You know,
they need
they made
to be at
shots.
home on their couch.
I mean,
They're going to be there pretty soon, unfortunately.
yeah. I look to the future. I'm going to say that the ACC has the most freshmen playing. That's all I'm going to say. The most newcomers,
All right.
the most
Everybody
freshmen
knows
playing in the conference.
I'm a
That's all
Kentucky
saying.
fan, so all right, you know.
Oh, I know you're not going to let them ride. I already know.
I couldn't help it. You said they was at home. I was like, they need to be on home with a couch right there's where they need to be.
Man, I can understand that.
All right, so Pittsburgh to me is the one right now in the ACC. They have Pittsburgh out. I think Pittsburgh deserves to be in. They're 12-4 in the conference. They're 19-8. But here's the deal: the conference is so bad that they are ranked 51 in the net rankings,
Yeah, the
And
sad
that's
thing
what
for
has-
Pitt is
and that's what has them out.
I'd have to look at their whole resume, but the sad thing for Pitt is like they beat North Carolina twice this year. Doesn't matter.
Oh, doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
yeah.
You're right. You're right.
I think they did. I think they lost. They beat Virginia, but I think they lost. I think Pitt lost to Duke. I don't think they beat Duke.
But
they
they
did
have
beat
a
Duke.
really bad loss as well. They lost to Florida State,
That's a bad loss. Yeah,
and it's a
Really
bad
bad
loss.
yeah. I think Pitt will get in as long as they can finish out strong and win a game or two in that ACC tournament. I think they'll get like a 10 seed in the tournament. They'll get in. They definitely deserve to get in. So I think they'll get in.
I think so too. I mean, North Carolina in and Pitt out, who beat North Carolina twice.
Well, that was
Before
prior to today, probably. 'cause
Yeah,
North Carolina just
before
lost
today.
yesterday.
Yeah, that
before
was this
today.
morning. Yeah,
Yeah.
but still, this morning they
Yeah.
beat them twice.
You know, what would be the best. You know, what would be the best thing for Pitt would be if they actually played North Carolina maybe again in the ACC tournament. They'd have, they could. I think Pitt's got to win a game or two in the ACC tournament. I think finish out strong. I'd have to look at their schedule real fast if they play like anybody. I know they did beat Virginia, but they lost to Duke. I don't know if they have. I don't think they have any really not big non-conference wins though. That's the problem. I don't think they beat anybody good in the non-conference schedule. They had a pretty easy schedule.
Right.
They didn't really play anybody that can be a big determining factor. You got to play a tough non-conference schedule and get a marquee win or two. And I don't think they did that. I'm looking at.
That's true.
I mean, they lost to West Virginia. They lost to Michigan in non-conference. I mean, they didn't really beat. They beat Northwestern. They did beat Northwestern at Northwestern, which is a really good win as of now. Northwestern's going to be in the tournament.
Yeah.
Lost at Vanderbilt. I mean, they did beat Virginia. Lost to Duke, Clemson. Lost to Florida State. Yeah, I mean, lost to Virginia Tech yesterday. It's not a loss. Virginia Tech's a decent team, but that's not. But they got a finishing
Yeah, but
schedule.
Virginia Tech's been going downhill lately.
Here could be their key game. They play Miami Saturday, March 4th at Miami. You win that game, you're in.
Right.
There you go. They play Miami March 4th, the final weekend, 2 weeks from now at Miami. You win that game, you're definitely in, no matter what happens in the ACC tournament. So,
all right. So the last conference we're going to talk about is the West Coast. They are the ranked conference in the net rankings. Of course, the two best teams in this conference are St. Mary's and Gonzaga. There is a third team in this conference that's worth mentioning and talking about, and that is Santa Clara. Santa Clara is 20-8 overall, and they are at least worth mentioning, I believe. And then there is another team in this conference that has a couple of pretty good wins, and that's Loyola Marymount. They have a couple of pretty good wins this year. But they are so far down in the net rankings. They're 103. I mean, they're 17-11, but there's just, unless they were to win the tournament, conference tournament, they won't get in.
I will say this conference has improved dramatically in the last 5 to 10 years, maybe even more in the last 3 to 5 years. I mean, the fact that St. Mary's could win the conference, they have to play at Gonzaga next Saturday night, the 25th. That's going to be a heck of a game. They beat them the first time. St. Mary's only lost one game.
Right.
St. Mary's wins next Saturday. They win the conference. If they lose, I think they tie for the conference title, or I don't know, the tiebreaker.
Right.
Anyway, regardless, they're both in. I could see Santa Clara making a run the tournament and getting in. I honestly can see St. Mary's getting further in the NCAA tournament than Gonzaga. I just think they're that good, and they play.
I agree with you.
Basketball.
I don't think Gonzaga has the guard play.
I don't think they do either. I think Gonzaga is a Sweet 16 this year.
Yeah,
I mean, if they were Sweet 16 last year when they had Chet Holmgren, and now they don't have Chet Holmgren, he's injured.
I think Sweet 16 is about the ceiling for this Gonzaga team this year.
I think St. Mary's can get there, or if they get the right right seeding, I think they can get even to the Elite Eight.
I mean, there are a few other teams you was talking about overall this conference. So San Francisco has got a decent team. I mean, they're 16-12. BYU has got a decent team and won a few games. So, the top 5 or 6 in this conference are at least above average teams. It's not quite as terrible. It used to be Gonzaga and St. Mary's, and everybody else was 10-20 or whatever,
back,
12-18 or whatever.
That's changed a lot. I mean, Loyola Marymount, I just looked St. Mary's. Loyola Marymount beat St. Mary's at home, and then they beat Gonzaga on the road. 2 marquee wins for them in that conference. So I don't think they have enough.
They got a couple. They got a couple of real wins. Loyola Marymount does.
With that net ranking over 100, though, I don't think, unless they win that conference tournament, I don't think they're going to get in. So, but it's a great story. The conference has gotten so much better. I mean, I remember early in the season, and of course, North Carolina hasn't played well at all, but Portland was playing in that Phil Knight Invitational. They almost beat North Carolina in the first game, and then of course they beat Villanova in the second game, who turned out Villanova wasn't having a great season either. But you could tell that was like a team that, they're 7th in this conference, and it shows how much talent in this conference and how much it's gotten better.
Right.
And they're 5-9 in the conference, 13-16 overall, and that wasn't a bad team. So it just shows how that conference has gotten a lot better in the last handful of years. So Gonzaga has raised the play in that conference, but I just don't think this is Gonzaga's year. I feel bad because every year everybody says it's their year, and then it comes down to it, and they can't get over the hump. So but I think, like I said, losing Holmgren, that was
absolutely. I mean, losing him to the NBA was a big deal for them last year, and then they lost the guard too. He was
Jalen Suggs.
So
and Nemhard. They just we'll see. I mean, what does the future hold for them? I mean, this is Timmy's senior year, I guess. Maybe he can play one more year because of COVID.
He may have that COVID year where he could play. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but I don't think it's even him. I think he could come back again next year, and they're going to have about the same team. They got to get something else around them, whether through the transfer portal or through.
Well, I think Mark Few will definitely put it out there and try. Few's a great coach.
Yeah, he definitely will. Yeah, he's a great coach and definitely will.
Yeah.
I almost feel bad for them. I do feel bad for them because they had the best team all year in 2021, and they got to the championship game and just got blasted by
canceled.
Yeah. No. The year after that, when they got all the way to the championship, they were undefeated.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about the year after. Yeah.
2021, they were the best team that year all season. I mean, and Baylor was right there too, and then Baylor just took them out in the championship game, and that was their chance to win. That was their first chance. So,
Yeah. All right. So that's the 8 conferences. There are. I mean, we didn't talk about the AAC with you got Houston, Memphis, and Cincinnati. So I put this up. It's coming up. Is there any other two-team conferences that you can think of? I think the AAC is one that's probably at least going to get two teams in. Now, no, I want to mention a couple of teams. I think you should go look at North Texas out of the Conference USA. Their resume is pretty impressive. And I believe that over some of these Pitts and Wisconsins and West Virginias and North Carolinas and some of these teams that we have went over that are borderline off really in these bigger conferences, I think a team like North Texas deserves a shot to go over some of these teams. And if they do, the Conference USA could possibly be a two-team conference. That's the reason why I'm bringing them up.
I haven't really paid attention to them. I'll definitely check out their information. I mean, I haven't really heard much about them. I know you have a lot of people talking about like the Charleston. Yeah,
they're like Virginia, where they play really good defense. They're one of the slowest offenses ever, but they will basically like a boa constrictor just completely tighten.
But they're 21-5 overall.
Squeeze you,
and their net ranking is 46, which is good enough to get anything above below a 50 is usually good enough to be considered for an at-large.
North Texas. You talking about North Texas, right?
North Texas.
Yes.
Out of the
They're
conference.
23-5. They're 23-5.
23-5.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Yeah, 23-5.
Yeah, 14-3 in the conference. Yeah, so right behind
Florida
Atlantic, who is
right.
Yeah.
So Florida Atlantic, FAU is been the ranked team and the one that's ahead of them. All right.
Yeah.
But they are killing it. Now, UAB is also in that conference too, John. That's probably why you know a little bit about North Texas.
Correct. I mean, I know, and UAB had a slump when Jelly Walker went down with the injury. So
right, and UAB's third in the conference.
Unless they can, make a run in the conference tournament and win it, they're not really going to see anything.
Right, they'd have to win the conference tournament now. UAB would to get in, but I'm telling you, I believe that a team like North Texas deserves an at-large bid into this tournament. I really do.
I agree with you in the fact that I just looked at their schedule, their results this year. I would rather see a team like that than a team like just a kind of like an 8th team in the Big Ten or some. I just think it's so much better for the tournament overall. The teams like that get a second bid. I remember when people were talking about Charleston. Of course, they've lost a couple since then, but they had like the one loss. Everybody's like, well, even if they don't win the conference tournament right now, if they keep winning, they're in because they only got one loss all year. But I just think it's so much better for college basketball as a whole when you rather have some of these conferences are two big conferences, smaller conferences than having or even not smaller conferences, but like not Power 5, but close to it, or Mountain West getting a 5th team rather than the Big Ten getting a 9th team, or even
right. That's what I'm saying. You get that Wisconsin getting out of the Big Ten who's like 15-11 or something. Yeah. You know what I mean? Come on. I would much rather see a team like North Texas, who has had the season that they have had, get a chance to play in this tournament. That's just I want to put that out there.
Get rewarded. I agree with you.
College of Charleston's another team if it's theirs. But the only thing with College of Charleston, I don't think that their net rankings is North Texas is 46.
No, they're not.
Which is in that range.
They're not. Yeah, Charleston, I don't think they've had any huge wins this year. Their one loss non-conference was in North Carolina. It doesn't look as great now because Carolina's not having a great season. But, yeah, I would say Charleston, if I had to guess, was probably net ranking about 75 or so. So, but, yeah, it's conferences like that is so much better if they somehow got two teams in than just like I said, like the 9th team of the Big Ten. I just think it's so much better for the whole because it's a good story. And then you never know. People always forget. Remember 2000, I think it was 11, when VCU got in as the 11 seed, and then they went all the way to the Final Four. They won the
Final Four,
game, and then And they won 4 games, and they were like one of the last 2 or 3 teams in. And A10's been down this year. I don't think A10's going to get more than a couple teams.
And
Did
I'd be
VCU
okay
beat
with
Duke that year.
They didn't beat Duke. They beat Kansas in the Elite Eight. I remember that game because I was out with some friends playing flag football, and somebody yelled, "Oh, it's like VCU by 15 at halftime." I'm like, yeah, right. I thought it was a joke, and I pulled out my phone. I'm like, holy crap, they're beating by 15, Kansas by 15.
It's true.
Yeah, they and that was just like, holy crap. They got to the Final Four that year, 2011. Yeah, that was and they had a good team all year. They just kind of had some bad losses, and then just they got in.
Well,
and just,
but they
so
really
all you gotta
gelled
do is
and
get it.
played.
Yeah.
They gelled and played great as a team once they got in the tournament, late in the season.
And some of the teams just need that chance to get in the tournament. And I think this is going to be one of those years, maybe more than any year in a long time, that a team like that can get all the way to the Final Four, because it's going to be some chaos where you could beat a solid team in your first game, and then the next game, the team you play isn't the team you're expecting to play because they get upset, and then the game after that, they get. Look at that East. Was it? I forget what bracket it was last year. Whenever North Carolina played St. Peter's in the Elite Eight. North Carolina was an 8 seed, and St. Peter's was a 15, and they're playing in the Elite Eight.
That's because they beat Kentucky. That's because they beat Kentucky,
Purdue,
and
North Carolina beat Baylor. All the good teams were upset. So it's like you're playing an 8 seed against a 15 seed in the Elite Eight. It's crazy.
Yeah, in the Elite. Yeah.
Yeah, Elite Eight. There's an 8 against a 15.
Nah, nobody predicted that. Yeah.
No, I'm saying if you did predict that, I'd give you. You're probably a millionaire. Because,
I know.
Nobody would have expected that. And how many upsets were there in that one region? So
right, that one half of the region was destroyed.
Right, by St. Peter's. Yeah. But that's the key to the tournament. You have a good team, and then the team you're playing in the next game upsets the higher seed. And if you can kind of win a couple of games, there's so many teams in the past that it's almost like you're just playing. You almost want to just like dodge the good teams until you're eventually going to have to play one. You get further along, but you dodge the good teams, you can get a lot further than you would have. And of course, St. Peter's beat Kentucky. Then they beat, I forget who they beat the second game, but then they beat Purdue in the third game. So go figure.
Yeah. Just wanted to bring up North Texas because they are 46th in the net ranking, and their overall record, Jason, I'm sorry, is 23-5, and they are a game or two behind FAU in the conference, something like that. So, I just feel like with their net ranking as being as high as it is, they're the kind of team that I would like to chance to play in this tournament over, a 48th net ranking, whatever, 52 Wisconsin or North Carolina or whoever it is.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's better that they get them in the tournament than than another team that doesn't 100% belong.
Yeah,
I can agree with that as well.
So if they would, then that would get Conference USA 2 teams. I think AAC will probably get 2 teams, and if that happens, then there would be at least 10 conferences with at least 2 teams in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, that would be great. Like I said, I like it to go. I like to go more in that direction in the future. I think maybe in the future they can even add something where, they always say you got to. It's kind of like an unwritten rule. It seems like you got to finish like 500 or better in a major conference to get in. If you got like 7-13 record in the Big Ten, even if you got a overall records like 17-14. There's teams I just don't think deserve to get in. They could say, well, they played a tough non-conference.
Occasionally, you'll see a 17. Yeah, occasionally you'll see 17-14 or 16-12 team or something.
Yeah, I just think you have to have a ridiculously tough non-conference schedule if you're going to get in with a record like that. So
yeah,
and of course, these smaller conferences. Throw a point in real fast. The smaller conferences, like you said, North Texas example. A lot of teams don't like power conference teams don't want to play in North Texas in a non-conference because they're scared they're going to lose. Well, it's tougher for them to schedule. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. All right, guys, y'all have any closing thoughts for Steve? Kind of run these conferences. Any closing thoughts or questions about your teams or anything like that? you already answered or asked yours, I believe. About your
did.
Maybe here in a couple weeks, you
Yeah.
know, when things start to straighten out,
Yeah.
you know, align themselves, and so
Yeah, we actually do have Steve scheduled on Selection Sunday, March the 12th
Wow.
at 3:00. Yeah. So
cool.
that ought to be fun to do this. Actually, you know, talk about which teams are what on Selection Sunday. So March the
Yeah, because
12th
actually,
at 3:00.
yeah, it's the 12. Actually, there's pretty much the conference tournaments these days are pretty much all over on Saturdays. There's only a couple that have championship games on Sundays now. SEC does.
Yeah.
I think Conference USA might still.
And
maybe
it's at
AAC,
noon.
that's about
It's
it.
at
There's very
noon.
few.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Right.
very few games that are on Sunday. It seems like maybe Big Ten too, I think is, but very few are on Sundays now. It's pretty much all over on
Right.
Saturday night.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. So, and then the reveals at 5 Eastern,
5.
or is it?
I
Or
think
is it?
six or seven. 6 or
It's
7
6
Eastern.
Eastern and 5 Central.
Something.
I think it's 6
something
and
like that.
5.
Might be 6. Might be 6. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it is about 6, and then they usually have about 4 hours of talking heads on TV afterwards.
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
all night
yeah.
long about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Six
ESPN will
sounds right.
talk all night.
Yeah, 6 Eastern sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6
Yeah.
Eastern sounds right.
All right, Steve, you have any closing thoughts on teams or anything that we talked about?
No, I'm just looking forward to the next couple weeks, and I'm sure you guys are too, and watching all the games. And I'm looking forward to getting on again on Selection Sunday and see where everybody lands.
Yep, I think it'll be a fun time, and we appreciate you coming on and doing it with us and giving us your time. I know you're a busy guy, just like the rest of us, so we appreciate you coming on with us.
Absolutely, anytime, guys. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you.
All right,
All right,
thanks, Steve.
All right.
All right, guys. Just trying to let him close out and get off there for a minute. All right. That was a pretty fun show. I like going through there and going through all the teams and talking about the bracketology stuff. Excuse me. I just sneezed right. I couldn't help it.
You should mute your bank.
I was trying to hold it off, but you know. All right. So I appreciate y'all coming in for and being here with us. So I know y'all was both kind of running behind today. So
Yeah, man. Good
Yep.
show, man. Good informed. Good information, man. Can't wait to Selection Sunday, man. A couple weeks away.
Yep.
It'll be here before you know it. And hey, my Ole Miss Rebels swept this weekend, so we're off to a 2-0 start baseball wise. So yeah, you know, I think things are good. You know, the Ole Miss girls are hanging in there with South Carolina.
hey, they
You know,
they
my
hung
whole-
in with an overtime game in basketball with Mississippi State yesterday too. So
Yeah, they did. But, you know, we fought, you know, so that's all you can ask for right now. Kids that just keep fighting. But other than that, hey.
Yep.
guys, I'm going to get to the Home for the Troops, a 2023 nonprofit organization. If you're looking to give to an organization for 2023, we ask that you do it for Home for Our Troops. This is an organization that builds homes for wounded and injured veterans. And quit laughing at me. I can't talk. He's laughing because I couldn't talk right. But all right, so we ask that you give to them. They build homes for these injured vets. Been doing it for over 20 years. And you can do that at www.hfotusa.org. He was totally laughing at me because I know he was. All right. That's going to wrap it up. I'm going to hold off on the prize picks things. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that. So I'm going to hold off on that today. And we'll get back to that maybe the next time that we do our show. All right. So I'm not sure if John's ever got a guest for the next couple of
No.
days or anything. So
Tuesday, no.
Tuesday, no.
We are guest free on Tuesday.
All right. So our next show will be Tuesday night. We will cover probably some hot topics and a couple of minutes that we do, our pick six and no fly zone. And we'll have a little fun with the three of us. And we will see you guys Tuesday, the 20th. And there'll be some good games on that night as well. I know there's a couple of good SEC games that when we had Ron Slay on, we picked. So I'm interested. So what happened in the Houston game? I've been doing all this. Y'all been watching it.
Houston won. They pulled it out. Houston pulled it out.
Okay. All right. Then we will sign off and see you guys on Tuesday night.
All right.
See you guys later.
All right, guys.
See ya.